On Splatoon's 10th anniversary, Nintendo of America, Nintendo of Europe, all the Nintendo accounts tweeted out something very, very interesting and kind of contradictory to what this day really should have been about, and it's such a random time for them to drop this information. But they went to Twitter and tweeted out, Pokemon Legends ZA and the Switch 2 edition of Pokemon Legends ZA will be launching on October 16th. Not only is this a very, very odd day for them to just randomly drop the release date for this game, but I just question what their plans are moving forward in terms of their game's schedule. Because let's look at what they have announced so far and what they are going to do for the rest of the year as far as the Switch 2 is concerned. So obviously this console will drop on June 5th, and with June 5th comes Mario Kart World, the big launch title, the Switch 2 Welcome Tour, the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 editions, as well as a bunch of other third-party games and indie games such as Undertale's sequel, Deltarune. All of these games will be launching then. You'll be able to play all of your Switch 1 games on this console backwards compatible, and you'll be able to play a lot of those upgraded as well, such as Super Mario Odyssey, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, both the Link's Awakening and Echoes of Wisdom Zelda games. A lot of these games are going to be available day one. That's amazing. Then in July, we have Donkey Kong Bonanza, a huge first-party game for Nintendo. Just a week later, Super Mario Party Jamboree, plus Jamboree TV and the Switch 2 edition, which is a insane title, but this game is dropping a week later. So July has two very, very big releases. I know it's a Switch 2 edition, but it's going to be the physical edition version of that, and people are going to buy it because it is a Mario Party for the Switch 2. Then we have the next month in August, Kirby and the Forgotten Land will be dropping August 28th, and that game and its free upgrade and all of its new content will probably be one of the only games that they put out this month, although I wouldn't be surprised if in a June Direct they announce another game for August. Then we go into the other games that we just simply don't know when they're going to release. We have Drag X Drive, which is going to be dropping in summer, so that probably means a little bit after Donkey Kong Bonanza, or we could actually see it soon after the Switch 2 launches. I'm very surprised this isn't a pack-in game, or at least some sort of game that they release close to the launch of the console. This feels very much like a 1-2 Switch type of game in which you buy the console and you want stuff to play with and you want to try out the new mouse feature, so you go and you get this game. It feels like if they don't do it in late June, no one's going to buy this game and it will flop very, very hard. So I hope it comes out in late June. But it's weird that they don't have a release date for it. I just don't know why they do that. Then obviously on this list we have Pokemon ZA, which is now confirmed to be in October. Then we have Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment for winter, and I am putting my stake in the ground right now. This game will not release in 2025. This will be an early 2026 release, likely in January, likely in late January, maybe even early February, but no, this will not be a game that comes out this year. This is the perfect game for them to put in that January month in which not a whole lot usually goes on for Nintendo, but they can continue to manifest that Switch 2 hype and get people invested in those later months. We have Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, in which we have zero release date just slated for 2025, as well as Kirby Air Riders. I think these two games could very well slot in a September release date or something like a November release date. I think Kirby Air Riders will, unfortunately, no matter when it releases, have to fight against another first-party release in that month, and it probably won't sell super well, which makes me really sad because I want Sakurai to have a successful game outside of the Smash Bros. Series, but I'm pretty sure he's content with just any amount of millions being sold of this game, and I'm pretty sure it will hit at least 2 million copies sold. So Kirby Air Riders will unfortunately be one of those games in which there's just so many games, it's hard to put it alongside of other ones, but it's another thing that just diversifies that first party lineup, another thing that it's like, wow, you can't do this on Switch 1. You can't have brought this back here, and it's going to be amazing to see what Sakurai could do with this new hardware. But if you look at all of these games and you put them out, okay, month by month by month, there's still a big game missing. None of these games, in my opinion, qualify for the big holiday title. And everyone knows, especially in the very first year of a console's launch, you have to have that big title. I'm talking 3D Zelda. I'm talking 3D Mario. I'm talking Smash Bros, Animal Crossing, something of that caliber. And it very well could be something like Splatoon because it's the 10th year anniversary of that franchise's conception. So I just need to take a moment to look at this schedule and say, what in the world is their plan here? Because Pokemon ZA was supposedly going to be that holiday game for people like myself who were conspiring which game is going to be the holiday title. It's got to be Pokemon, right? Because Pokemon is always going to be the big holiday title if it releases late in the year. No matter what, it's going to sell well. But I now see why they may not want to do that, because I understand that the Switch 2 edition will essentially be the one most people want and will also be the one in which people are playing for the first time. It's unlike any other Switch 2 edition because it's launching alongside the Switch 1 version. It's not an old game. It's a brand new game that you can play on either console. So I assumed because it was a brand new game that they would want that to be the holiday title. But now that I'm thinking about it, it does make a lot of sense for them to not want it to be the holiday title because it does have that Switch 2 branding on it, which means a lot of people may not see this as a next-gen game, which obviously I don't, and many people in the Nintendo community do not. But it very well could be that they want to get a brand new game out there to really show off what this thing can do for people going to the stores on Black Friday and for Christmas and for New Year's, all of those different holiday seasons in which people are much more likely to spend money on things that they don't necessarily need to get by in their daily lives. So what in the world could this schedule look like? Well, if we have our launch date being Mario Kart World, Welcome Tour, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, all those third-party games, then we move on to Dragon Drive, which I think will probably be a late June title. We then have Donkey Kong Bonanza and Super Mario Party Jamboree Switch 2 Edition plus Jamboree TV, both games being the July games for Nintendo. I don't think they'll want anything else in July. Kirby and the Forgotten Land Switch 2 Edition being in late August makes me think they're going to have another big first-party game in early August that they have yet to announce, and I will probably cover that in some sort of Switch 2 direct presentation predictions. But moving forward, I think August will definitely have another game. Then we've got Pokemon Legends, which we now know is going to launch in October. So that leaves September wide open for any and all of these games. And I would not be surprised to see Metroid Prime 4 Beyond Switch 2 Edition and, of course, the Switch 1 edition of that game launching in September. That feels right to me. It could also launch in August. That also feels right to me if that were to be what they want to do. But at the same time, I don't know if they want to depend back to back 3 games in a row on just Switch 2 editions, because that would be Jamboree at the end of July on 24th, and then Kirby and the Forgotten Land on August 28th, and then if you had Metroid Prime 4 Beyond and that Switch 2 edition in the middle of those, I think it would be fine. I think those are big enough games and games that people enjoy enough that they would want to double dip, and obviously Prime 4 is a brand new experience, but I just don't know if they want to heavily rely on those Switch 2 titles. So maybe it's a September game, but let's say for argument's sake, it's an August game, and they really just want to get all of these games out there as soon as possible, so that way the games that they announce in June would then come out in these later months. Obviously, then we have Kirby Air Riders and Age of Imprisonment. I'm saying Age of Imprisonment is early 2026, so then Kirby Air Riders would have to be our September game, or it could just be pushed back to November, but I don't think they're going to want that to be a November thing. It could very well be a December thing. For it to have been announced for 2025 and not see any sooner release date, like a summer or even some sort of window, tells me that they want a little bit more time to polish that game. So it very well could be a September game, but it could also be a December game. But let's say again, for argument's sake, September is Kirby Air Riders, then we have Metroid Prime 4 out of the way, so then October is Pokemon Legends ZA. What then is our November and December game? We're missing at least one big game here to really seal the deal, really convince people why you need a Switch 2. What could that game possibly be? Well, before we get to that, let's break down why people would want to buy it in the first place. What kind of games, what kind of experiences can you get on the Switch 2 already? And what kind of experiences are you not able to get with the announcements we have right in front of us? Well, obviously, the entire Switch 1 library is available to you if you buy a Switch 2. And there are going to be plenty of people who did not buy a Switch 1 that do get a Switch 2 and decide to just pig out on a lot of those older games. The Black Friday sales of some of these other games, like Mario Odyssey being probably half off, something like that. All of these Switch 2 editions that they can get for free upgraded, there are going to be a lot of people that just catch up on the Switch 1 library and don't necessarily want to go for those $70, maybe even $80 big first-party games that hit the shelves early. As well as that, a lot of people will just get these consoles for the third-party games, and that is very confusing to me personally, because if you're going to get a brand new system, why wouldn't you just get a PS5 or an Xbox if you are really wanting to play all these Xbox games, these third-party games? But I understand the mouse controls and the new portability of the Switch 2 is a huge factor. And we can't forget how powerful this thing actually is. If it matches up to the actual graphics of the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, Obviously, that would be a reason enough to get this console because it is so close to that, but obviously it's not that. It's a little bit above a PlayStation 4, but not quite up to the PlayStation 5 levels. So in a few years, it's going to be outdated, and that's just going to be how it is, because this is going to be another long generation in which they really stretch out how long this thing can go. But the power is there at launch, and that's something we have to remember. People are going to want to buy this for third-party games, for Final Fantasy, for Elden Ring, for a potential Metaphor Refantazio. All of these big games that people want to buy, they can now play it on the go. And I've caught myself, I have a PlayStation 5, and I play a lot of third-party games on that, even indie games on that, because I know it's going to look and run a lot better than it would on my Nintendo Switch OLED. So I know now I'm actually holding off. There are a lot of games that have gone on sale that I am interested in, like Animal Well, that I would really want to play on my Switch 2 instead, because I could take that anywhere, anytime. I am actually holding out to buy these games on my Switch 2, and I'm sure a lot of people will be as well, and I'm sure they're already planning on it. So then we have our big multiplayer game with Mario Kart World. That is going to be the mass appeal. And maybe, just maybe, Nintendo is not going to give us another huge game of that caliber this year, because maybe they think this is going to be the holiday game. I am confident no matter what they release, if they decide to do another holiday game, Mario Kart World will be the one that they do the bundle for. That's just how it is. They're going to push out these bundles, and that's going to be what people go for in the stores, what people want. It's just Mario Kart, man. People love Mario Kart, and it is perfect for every type of person. Single player, multiplayer, online, no matter what you want, Mario Kart World is going to have it. Then, of course, we've got our welcome tour game for the nerds that really care about the intricacies of this console. Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 editions will satisfy a lot of that Zelda crowd and a lot of the first-party crowd that just wants to play these games in a better light. Donkey Kong Bonanza is a 3D platformer in which I am wondering how much platforming are they actually focusing on here, because a lot of these mechanics have to do with breaking down the world and throwing things at people, and obviously we know now that baby Pauline is going to be in this game, and there's a possibility that because we see on her wrist here that it has that jewel on it, that weird little wristband, it could be that she is somehow the Rock and she got cursed as a Rock and then she turns back into a human, but we don't know how that's going to go, and maybe it's going to be some sort of Donkey Kong origin story, some sort of Pauline origin story. That would be freaking awesome. I would love that so much. I cannot wait to see what this game has in store, and I think it could appeal to a lot of hardcore fans as well. A lot of those 3D Mario fans will definitely jump on this. A lot of those platformer fans will jump on it, and of course, everyone who cares about this franchise will want to see what's going on. Then we've got more of that casual crowd here, the Mario Party Jamboree. All these party people are going to want to pick up that game. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, a big mix of casual and hardcore fans because it's a 3D platformer in which you use Kirby to get all of these different abilities, but it's not a difficult game by any means. And also, we have to remember these are old games, so these aren't necessarily pushing sales. It just is another piece of content for people to consume if they already have their Switch 2. Drag X Drive is going to be one of those novel games in which people really care about when it comes out and they get invested in like people did with 1-2 Switch and ARMS, but I don't see it being a huge thing. It could be a very competitive thing for the 1 or 2 million people that really care about it, but moving forward, I don't see this being another system seller, just another thing for people to grab onto. Pokemon Legends ZA in October, that will get every crowd you could ever imagine, casual, hardcore. It's Pokemon, baby. That's what Nintendo wants, that's what Nintendo needs. And of course, people could say I'm crazy for saying this isn't the holiday title now, because Mario Odyssey back in 2017 was definitely considered the holiday title, and it released in late October as well. So that could be exactly what Nintendo is hoping for here, to have another big game released about a month before Black Friday and before Thanksgiving, all of that big holiday stuff, to have enough stock to push to the people. Another niche game crowd is Kirby Air Riders. That will be a very similar Mario Kart thing, but it's going to be for a very small crowd. Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment is going to be another small crowd. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Again, as much as I want to think this is going to be the game that breaks Metroid into the mainstream, it's probably going to be another small system seller, 3 million units at best. I don't have a lot of high hopes for this game in terms of pushing sales for the console itself. So then that's all we've got. We've got our shooter game, we've got our party game, we've got our big come-together Pokemon and Mario Kart World games in which everyone loves, 3D platformers in terms of Donkey Kong Bonanza, our Zelda fix. We've got pretty much everything you could ever want, except for one thing. And this is the game I am pretty sure it's going to be the November game. I could be crazy here. But Luigi's Mansion 4 will be our big holiday title. Now, I know, you're thinking, what in the world? How is Luigi's Mansion a big holiday title? You're crazy, Ray. What's going on here? Let me tell you. Luigi's Mansion 3. Ever heard of it? I have. It's one of my favorite games ever. Not just on the Switch, ever. And Luigi's Mansion 3 did not sell as well as people had anticipated. It shattered everyone's expectations. It didn't just hit those expectations, it completely obliterated them all. Luigi's Mansion has proven to be a big series for Nintendo, a pillar for the company moving forward, a pillar in terms of franchise diversity and people caring about different kinds of genres. Luigi's Mansion is a game unlike any other, and it's the one game this lineup is missing, a holiday game in which people will want to go and buy. Now, you might be saying, what in the world? It feels like a very niche series, doesn't it? Well, yes, I would have agreed with you if it hadn't sold pretty much better than every other franchise Nintendo has on this list. Of course, I give you your Zeldas, I give you your Mario Kart, but outside of that, Luigi's Mansion 3 has outsold every other franchise's installment that previously came on the Nintendo Switch. Luigi's Mansion 3 sold 14.25 million copies on the Nintendo Switch. It sold like bananas, and that is not an understatement. This game was phenomenal for so many reasons, and everyone adored it. Luigi's Mansion 2 Dark Moon on the 3DS. That game sold 5 million copies. Nintendo has a big opportunity on their hands here. This console has so much power compared to the Nintendo Switch. I think Luigi's Mansion 3 was probably the best looking game on the Switch. Not counting Metroid Prime Remaster, a lot of people think that game was better, but in terms of art style, in terms of vision, in terms of what they were able to do with the hardware's capabilities and everything that they wanted to do, they executed it flawlessly. And it was one of the, if not the biggest reasons as to why Nintendo bought out Next Level Games, and Next Level Games, mind you, has not produced a game since Battle League. Mario Strikers came out in 2022, and Luigi's Mansion 3 came out in 2019. Are you seriously telling me that they could not have developed a Luigi's Mansion 4 game within that time frame for the Nintendo Switch 2, for the Nintendo Switch holiday lineup? I am telling you right now, that is what they want. They want a big game in which maybe not a lot of people would have expected to be the holiday game, but it gives them a lot more time to then cook up those big games that you think of as big games, because Luigi's Mansion is not a series that people think of as a big series, but it is enough to make a holiday push, enough to make people want to buy the console, because if it is anything like Luigi's Mansion 3, Luigi's Mansion 4 will blow us all away in terms of visuals, in terms of gameplay, in terms of feel. It will evolve the series to the next level. The puzzles will be better than ever. The combat will feel better than ever. The game will be amazing because they're going to have time to cook. They're going to have time to make sure everything is right, and they're going to give it to us right in November. So I am predicting that will be the game that sells this system moving into the holiday season, and that is the game Nintendo is going to take a little bit of a chance on to say, was 3 the fluke or was 2 the fluke? Because one of those games is the real truth as to why people like the series, and we don't know which one is which. So we're going to have to wait and see if Luigi's Mansion 4 is actually a pillar or if it just turned out to be a Switch 1 flash in the pan. And I really think it is going to be the first option of those two. Now, many people who have been following my channel for a while will probably know Luigi's Mansion 4 was one of my biggest wish list games for this year, and I do think that it makes sense for them to want to announce it a little bit earlier. That's my only flaw in this argument here, because the earliest they could announce it would be in June. For them to go June, July, August, September, October, November, that would still be a half of year, but not as long as any of the other previous life cycles of this game, because if you think of the franchise's past, Luigi's Mansion 3 was announced in 2018 in the September Direct and then released in 2019 in October. Now that game, I believe, was delayed, so that means that they really needed a little bit more time, but they obviously anticipated it to be coming out probably a little bit sooner. I don't think they wanted a year for that game, and I believe on the 3DS with Dark Moon, they also took about a year between reveal and release. It could have been longer, and I'm misremembering, but I'm pretty confident it was definitely longer than half a year, so they don't have a lot of history in terms of releasing and revealing in a very quick time span, but I'm going to predict this series is big enough, it's huge enough, it's enough marketing time for them to want to push it out, and I think a lot of these marketing cycles are trying to get smaller for Nintendo. Something like Tears of the Kingdom last lasted years and years and years. And of course, when the game released, it exploded in sales, but it didn't have as much leg as Breath of the Wild ended up having, and it didn't sell for as long after. I think that has a lot to do with the marketing and kind of the Zelda fatigue overall, with how long we were waiting for that game. From 2019 to 2023, we were in limbo on this game. This will be a much shorter life cycle. Nintendo is going to push for these shorter life cycles in terms of reveal and release. I think Luigi's Mansion 4 will be that game in which we blow our socks off and we're all in awe at what this console can do moving forward and what this series will do to reach new heights. So, let me know all of your thoughts down below in the comments. Am I crazy? Will Pokemon just simply be the holiday title and they'll save a bunch of their newer games for the next year? I am just curious because June is coming, and June will pretty certainly have a Nintendo Direct in my opinion. So they're gonna have to announce a bunch of new first-party games. What games will those be? Let me know all your thoughts and more down in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content. Click the bell to know exactly when I release my videos. Make sure you join my membership program to support me as a creator and my channel at large. Click on the left side of your screen if you want to see my breakdown of Mario Kart World, and click on the right side of your screen to see the Luigi's Mansion 3 video I did earlier in the year. I love that game, and you'll see exactly why in that video. Thank you once more for making it to the very end. You are amazing. My name is Ray. This has been Ray's Nintendo Talk, and I will see you all in the next video. Have a phenomenal day.